Branded Adventure. How good is it? Well, in this video, I'm going to take you through the pros and the cons for the entire engine. What's up YouTube, Dal here from Zephyr Wargames, and today I'm going to bring you a breakdown of a video for Branded Adventure. Now, a lot of you guys have been asking me about this engine and how it kind of synergizes with the branded deck. Now, straight away, one of the biggest flaws is all about the fact you cannot use normal summon effects that turn. So a lot of you are like, well, I don't get to use Aluber, who is my most important card for the branded part, so is the Adventure engine actually worth it? Well, today I'm going to take you through a short, sweet, simple video and take you through the pros and the cons of the Adventurer engine, and then you can make up your decision towards the end, but I will also give you my personal opinion on the engine as well. Please also make sure you smash that like button, hit that notification bell and subscribe so you don't miss out on any more upcoming content. We've got so much more coming up to you, especially with Ghosts from the Past being released in a couple of weeks' time as well, with that all-important Aluber reprint. So, let's get started on this information video. So we're going to start off with, of course, the pros. So this is what makes Adventurer so good and synergizes with the deck. Now, a lot of people, when I've been talking about this, pretty much go, oh yeah, it's really good, it gives you an Omnigate. I'm like, yeah, okay.
No! No and then!
And then?
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 No and then!
And then I go to people and I go, oh, I don't really want to play the Adventurer engine. Why not? Well, it costs £300. I mean, that's a good enough reason, but is there any other reason why you wouldn't? So in this video, I'm going to give you the best and the worst of it. So we're going to start off with the pros. So what are the pros for the Adventurer engine? Well, straight away, it's an Omni-Negate for pretty much free. So that means that you can play around stuff like Ash. It gives you more protection for your Branded Fusion. It also means that you can negate a D barrier should your opponent set it. Whether they put it in going second, I'll never know. The only thing it can't stop is still one of your biggest foes, and that is Super Poly. But even if they do Super Poly you are still left inferior with an Omni-Negate on board. Or if you're going second, you'll still have that ability to try and bounce a set Super Poly before your opponent can activate it, because there are very few targets that can actually fuse using the Griffin Rider and of course the token, or just the token on its own. Then it allows you to play through routes of around stuff like Super Poly, D barrier, and it can also let you play around Crossout in a sense as well, because a lot of people are going to be putting Crossout in that they're going to be able to only hit your branded opening, whereas if you're able to set up the Adventurer combo, you're able to protect from that as well. And if they do cross out and successfully hit your branded fusion, you are then able to still build up a very decent board off of the back of the Adventurer engine, whether you go into Verte Anaconda or whether you just sit there with a Griffin and a token as well. It also gives you a quicker and easier route to Fusion Destiny and Branded Fusion for the pure fact that the token alone can go into Link Spider. You then use Griffin Rider, or if you searched out the Water Enchantress, use that to go into Verte, and then you get your pick of Fusion Destiny, which is a little bit harder to get to directly, and of course Branded Fusion. Continuing on as well, it does give you a discard that will trigger Tragedy, because the idea with the Fateful Adventure, you get to add and then discard all in one effect. It's not a discard as cost, which is really, really important because that will then trigger Tragedy. Which all sounds well and good, but then triggering Tragedy, the main target you want to get to is Aluber, and you can't use Aluber to turn you search it that way anyway. So you're probably going to go for Adler Biotin, meaning you've already got a Branded in red ready to go. Continuing on as well, it does protect Branded Fusion. I've already mentioned that as well. But a lot of people fear Ash Blossom on Branded Fusion, and that is of course where Crossout comes in. But people that have already got the Branded engine, or the Adventure engine, sorry, are going to be using that to try and spin the Griffin back to protect from Ash Blossom. And then obviously protect from Imperms Veilers if you're not already playing Comedy. It also baits out hand traps. Now what I mean by this is straight away by activating Fateful Adventurer, it can bait out a Ghost Ogre. It can also bait out an Ash Blossom. Activating Water Enchantress also baits out an Ash Blossom as well. So it does kind of, whether it is directly negating that particular hand trap you're trying to play around, it does also drain them out of your opponent's hand, because at the end of the day, if you're going to see the Brave token come down, you're probably going to rather have Branded Fusion hit the board successfully than let the token and an Omni-Negate happen. It also provides natural outs to certain floodgates. Now what I mean by that is it gives you a natural out to something like Mystic Mine. It can give you natural outs to anti-spell fragrance as long as you've got the turn set up and ready to go and the Griffin Rider is already set or already active on your token. It does also let you get rid of Pesky Back Row, which the natural branded Despia deck doesn't have natural outs to it unless you're going to be main decking MST, Twin Twisters or Cosmic Cyclones. It also gives you a route to play under Scythelock as well, which can be very important while it is still legal. The final thing as well is it does enable OTKs. Now what I mean by that is straight away, if you were to open up well enough in your 6-card hand, one card in the form of Rite of Armoricia does give you a 2k token plus a free bounce and a 2k Griffin. So straight away all you need to do is find the remaining damage which can successfully be summoned off of stuff like Branded Fusion in order to finish the game off. Now let's go on to the negative, let's go on to the cons. Why is it not such a good thing for the branded deck? Well, the first one that is glaringly obvious is that it does not allow you to normal summon and trigger the effect of Aluba the turn you activate Rite of Armoricia. Now I know the counter side to that is, well, you just have branded opening. True, but you cut your most important normal summon of the deck down by 50%. And what I mean by that is you've got 3 routes to get into Aluba. You've got the searchability of a Tragedy, which you in theory would lose because you can't use its normal summon effect. You have itself as well that you just normal summon. And then of course you've got the branded opening. So at the very least, you're taking your copies of Aluba from, in theory, the hard copies of 3 branded opening plus 3 Aluba are 6 copies. You're cutting that down to only really playing the 3 branded opening in order to make a successful Aluba alongside your Rite of Armoricia. Off the back of that as well, it limits your extra deck space. Now what I mean by that is it does take up at least 1 Link Spider, a Verte Anaconda, and then possibly another Link monster in the form of Dark, the Dark Charmer. You might be able to cut that down to just be only playing Link Spider and Verte, but straight away, where it is a benefit to be able to play under D-Barrier because you can just go the token into Link Spider, get to Verte, you're still not going to be able to make the fusion summon, so you're not really pushing the ceiling that much further in that particular scenario. It adds in more bricks. Now it is a 9-card engine, and straight away if you open up multiple Rite of Armoricias, they're not that great for you. If you open up the Fateful Adventure, it's not that great for you because that's a card you would rather search throughout the combo plays itself. If you open up Griffin, yes it is a free summon, and it does mean that the War Enchantress is a free summon, but it is a card that, unless you're going first with no monsters on the board, it's not a card you want to be top decking late game. Also, the Draco Back Equip spell is pretty useless without getting into a Rite of Armoricia, so you're adding more bricks to the deck. Now, a lot of ways people are trying to combat this are making it a 60-card branded deck, completely fine, but I'm looking at this in the perspective of, okay, well, if I want to make this as consistent as possible, and I want to try and minimise the Aluba clash with it, I'm going to be looking at a 40-card deck. Carrying on as well, it can get you a link route into Branded Fusion, but of course it does clash with Branded Fusion, so you won't be able to go the link route the same turn you activate the Branded Fusion. So the idea is that you would be putting the token and then of course the Griffin on the board and then activate Branded Fusion. Now yes, that is a very powerful 2-card combo because that will then give you an Omni Negate plus a Mirror Jade Dragon, and we all know that the Mirror Jade Dragon can lead you into Branded in Red. They do obviously count as materials for Branded Red as different names, so once you've used the Griffin Rider and spun it back into the deck, the token is free fodder. The last one, or well, the penultimate one is it is a 9-card main deck engine. Now let's just put that into perspective for you. That 9-card engine can be either the Patchwork engine at a minimum level, so either two chains, 1 Patchwork, 1 Poly. That's only 4 cards. It still gives you 5 more cards to play around with that can be additional text. If you wanted to bump it up, it could also be more hand traps. It could be the Fusion Destiny package, and it kind of gives you that balance of what else would you want to add in. It could be text, it could be counters to the meta. It can give you a lot more balance in order to play around with it. And then of course the final massive negative is it's a £300 engine. Now if you've already gone out and bought the Alubas at £50, £100, whichever one you're going for, or you're going to get the reprints which currently sit at around £35 on Tier 0 games, if they have any left by the time this video comes out, you're still already putting £100 in there. Do you want to put another £300 in there just to get what? An Omni Negate? That's kind of down to you to decide. So a lot of people that I've spoken to have kind of said, well, I've got the branded engine, so I'm going to use the branded engine. So only we want to ask, well, is it actually worth doing it? The biggest drawback, like we've already discussed and gone over the pros and the cons, is that it's quite simple. It gives you an Omni Negate in price or in place of your most consistent combo starter. So what are my opinions on this? I've actually been on both sides of the fence on this one. I started with the Brave engine. I was like, oh, this is really cool. This will give me a little bit more. And then I've kind of gone, Aluba is actually incredibly important. Do I really want to be losing that in order to set up an Omni Negate with the possibility that the discard may help me, but it may also restrict my plays trying to go further forward? Someone that I was speaking to pretty much summed this up absolutely perfectly for me. So massive shout out to Kyron, who has helped me put the pros and cons list together. But also a massive shout out to Charlie, who basically just summed it up. So very simply, without Brave, the ceiling is lower, but the overall combo is more consistent. So without Brave, the ceiling is lower. So with Brave, the ceiling is higher. But without Brave, the combo is more consistent. And I think this pretty much sums up the exact split of the Branded Adventurer kind of deck. The combo is more consistent. It is more consistent. It is better at doing what Branded want to do. And that is purely fusion summoning, getting as many of your fusion monsters on the board as possible, and then winning and controlling the game state from that point on. When you look at the other side, if you add the Branded engine into it, it does take away from the core essence of Branded Despia of fusion summoning, and then it allows you to, in order, play around certain cards that will cause the fusion section a lot of issues. Stuff like Super Polys, alongside stuff like Dimensional Barriers and Ash Blossoms, everything like that. And it also lets you put on stronger monsters, stronger Omni Negates, which technically the deck Branded itself doesn't have. It has monster removal and it has back row removal, but it doesn't really have the ability to deal with Omni Negates of spells and traps that are being activated. So that is kind of the give and the take of what you're looking at when you're trying to put through a Branded engine. So let's boil it down to the base question that we started this video off with. How good is the Brave engine or the Adventurer engine for Despia? Well, overall, it's actually really quite good when you consider what it brings to the deck. On the flip side, it's actually really bad because it clashes with your most important card of the deck and it costs you £300. Is it worth doing? Well, ultimately, it's going to come down to simply this. If you own the Brave engine, test it out, try it out, see if it fits your playstyle. It definitely has an edge on the pure Branded versions for the pure fact that a lot of people are going to be prepared for the pure Branded versions, and they can be stopped with one card. They can be stopped with an Ash Blossom, they can be stopped with a Super Poly, and they can of course be stopped with a Dimensional Barrier. When you look on the flip side, the Adventurer, it's a lot harder to do that with one single card. In order to stop the Adventurer going off, you're either going to need Token Collector, or possibly you might even need Artifact Lancier. Off the back of that as well, that will only stop the Brave engine. In order to stop the fusion side of it, which is of course the whole Branded Despia section, you're going to need a D-Barrier, you're going to need a Super Poly as well. So it becomes a lot more difficult that if you're having to deal with two engines rather than one, it means your side deck's going to get a little bit more flooded, it's going to control a little bit more, and you're going to need a bit of experience with both dealing with the Branded engine of where its breakpoints are, along with the Adventure engine and where that's breakpoints are as well. Anyway, I hope you have kind of found this video informative and useful. Quite simply, do not go out and buy the Brave engine, because I do not feel that the Brave engine of a £300 upgrade is worth it to the Branded deck right now, unless you are planning to try and tackle on YCSs, Euros, Nats, you name it. Speaking of Nats and Euros, it's amazing that the European areas have confirmed that there will be Nats this year, and there will also be a Euros this year. I cannot wait to find out where they are, and you know I will be bringing you more information on that one. So that is quite simple. If you have £300 spare and you just no idea what you want to do with it, sure, go buy the Brave engine, give it a go, see if you like it. Definitely test it out first. If you've already got it, test it out, see if it fits your playstyle for the Branded. See if you miss that third Aluba. See how many times the Aluba clashes with your Branded and you're sitting there with Aluba in hand like, you're useless to me until the next turn. So keep that in mind. It definitely comes down to personal playstyle. When I've tested it before we got all of the Branded stuff, I was like, yeah, okay, I don't mind, this is okay. Then I got the new Branded stuff and I was like, oh cool, Aluba, I'm right. Which one do I use? You need to get to Branded Fusion. Now obviously if you open up Branded Fusion, Branded Opening, you are laughing with along a Rite of Amarysera. Keep in mind as well, the Rite of Amarysera or the Adventure engine will include an additional cost upgrade because you will need to be playing Pot of Prosperity, because that is your most consistent way to get into your one card power plays. Quite like previous decks where you've had a lot of one-card power plays when you're looking at Dear Servant, Rite of Armoricia, a one-card Prank Kid combo, that is basically what you're looking for. You're activating Pot of Prosperity to get you into a missing piece, whether that be Branded Opening, whether that be Rite of Armoricia, or whether that be Branded Fusion. There's a lot that you are going to be digging for to kind of balance it out. So it's definitely a massive cost upgrade, and it's something that you should highly consider before you actually even go to buy it. Test it out, try it out, see if it matches your playstyle. The last thing you want to do is spend £300 and it not work for you. Plus, if your local environment isn't to that level where everyone is running around with a Brave engine, or you're having massive success with a pure version, stick with it. At the end of the day, there's no reason to change something that isn't broken or isn't working. Anyway, I hope you found this video informative and helpful. As absolutely always, guys, of course, please stay safe, and as absolutely always, happy dueling.